Welcome to Court Captains, a podcast about volleyball.
Where we talk. Wait.
I love this. This is always so much fun.
Wait. Welcome to Court Captains, a volleyball podcast,
where we talk all things Pro Volleyball Federation.
I'm Kelly.
I'm Nikki.
I'm Ian.
And today we're talking
a very dusty week, aka there were two sweeps.
Two sweeps. How many games even were there? Two.
Super dusty.
Every game a sweep.
Every game a sweep. Well, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Court Captains Pod and look out for us in the YouTube comments on the PVF live stream.
Yeah, Nikki's out there doing work.
I'm out there chatting.
Yeah.
I'm out there reacting, observing. I'm in there. For a quick corrections/clarifications corner, the only things I wanted to mention in reference to last week's episode, we did clarify there are 8 substitutions allowed in each PVF set. So that is compared to 6 in FIVB, which is, I believe, the Federation of International Volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
That's like all the tournaments that happen that are kind of not the Olympics, Ian. And then there are 15 allowed in the NCAA. So
okay. I knew it was a lot when I was saying
right.
20. I mean, 20, now looking at what the actual numbers are, I'm like, that's a little crazy, but.
One for every point.
Yeah.
12 in when we played and in club, I think, still to this day.
So are they rolling where, like, if you come out, you can go back in the same set?
Yeah, that doesn't. An individual player can come in and out as many times as the coach decides, not the libero, but it does count for a sub every time.
Sure.
Every swap.
Yeah. So they were talking a lot about this in Thursday night's match, how it makes your strategy a little different because you can't swap in maybe the poorer passers for back row.
You'll run out quicker.
Yeah.
On the note of liberos, I confirmed that both liberos do dress in the other color, and they both can go in the same set, not at the same time.
Sure. Wow.
But they both can play in a given set.
Wow.
Playing fast and loose PVF rules.
Now, a new thing for us to have to look up for next week. Can liberos serve?
They cannot. I'm certain that they cannot in this league, which is wild to me.
Wild. Yeah. Interesting.
So both middles have to serve. Typically, a libero goes in for a middle. So when the middle gets to the back row, a libero will come in and play their back row positions. But the middle has to serve and then play defense during that half a rotation. Libero comes in when they're done serving. Yeah. So that's what we got going on for clarifications. We're learning as we go.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll start off this episode with a little bit of stats corner.
Another educational moment.
Another educational moment.
All right. So last week we talked a lot about attacking, a little bit of blocking stats. And this week we thought we'd give a little bit more of a breakdown on what reception or serve reception stats are. So basically when the other team is serving, how the receiving team is passing. So when you look at the box score, like stat breakdown on the PVF website, you have a section called reception. We have sum, error, positive percentage, and perfect percentage. So generally, passes are ranked on a scale from 0 to 3. And I like to think of this as a 3 is when you have 3 options. So your max amount of options, the setter can set all the players on the court. They're not like forced into any decisions.
Similar to last week, how we were talking about like that's in system, that's the plan.
Yes.
You can reach your middle.
Yes.
And also the pin hitters.
Like a perfect pass, a 3 pass is pretty objective. It's like, this is a perfect pass. And then you get into a 2, which can start to get a little fuzzy. What is a 2? You know, a 2, it's kind of hard because it's like a 2 for one setter is maybe not a 2 for another setter. But when you're at the professional level, I'm sure it's a lot more standard because these are the best players in the world. But again, I like to think of it as you really only have 2 options. So maybe just your pin hitters, your middle is maybe not an option for you to run from the pass that you're given. And I mean, we all see a lot of back row attacks. So back row attacks are kind of in the mix with being a pin option because it's not like a middle hit where it has to be quick and basically perfect to run it successfully. And then a one pass is almost an error, like you shanked it, but we're able to recover it. Or maybe it's a pass that's completely in the wrong direction,
The
even though
setter
it's up
can't
high.
reach it.
So setter can't reach it, or the setter
But
can reach
somebody
it, but
can.
they really can only go. They're really forced. Their hands are forced to where they need to be set. And then a 0 is complete error. You did not receive the ball at all, which would be on the other side an ace. They got the ace to you. And so then when we get into, and so that's what sum is, just total amount of balls that you serve received. Error is those aces that I was talking about. And then so positive percentage is a combination of 2s and 3s divided by total attempts. And then perfect percentage is a total number of 3s, 3 passes divided by total attempts.
Do you remove anything about how much you get aced?
No.
Okay.
No, it's
Cool.
just a weighted average.
Yep. I was just trying to compare it to attacking, where you remove your errors from your kills
to
get your efficiency,
Yeah.
but that's not happening here. Okay.
Yeah. So if there was another just serve receive, I think a lot of times on the stream they will say reception. Oh no, they do just do positive perception. So or positive percentage. So it's just 2s and 3s, but I don't know. A lot of times we would look at the number as a whole. So you'd get the weighted average of 3s plus 2s plus 1s divided by total amount of attempts. And yeah, you kind of get an idea of how well you're passing.
I like the percentages. I haven't used them in coaching or playing before. And so I don't have a great idea yet of like what's good. Like I'm still looking at stats from these matches and trying to determine, what's objectively good, kind of like how we were talking last episode about what's good for a hitting average. I'm like still trying to gather that information, but I do think that it's a cool new way to assess that.
Yeah. I mean, if we look at positive percentage, so I'm just looking, I've got the stats from Thursday night's match of Atlanta Vibe versus Mojo pulled up, and I'm looking at Atlanta Vibe, their positive percent. Wow. That's a hard word to say, folks.
The double
positive percentage reception is over 50%, which to me is not that great, actually.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're thinking I'm only passing 2s and 3s for 50% of the balls, I don't know. Maybe not that.
But that's on the way, like that's also a stat on the way to a sweep, right?
Right. Well, if you compare it to what the other team was doing, which is 30%.
Sure. It starts to make sense.
Right. And if you control serving and serve receive, you're going to control the game.
Totally. The other part is comparing it to that perfect percentage. So the difference for Atlanta for that, for instance, with a 55% positive and a 32% perfect, a setter is typically trained that anytime you can set the middle, you should. So if a third of the time you can set a quick tempo ball that is difficult to defend and block against, that might be enough, right? For you to get a ton of points if a third. So that's another one that I'm trying to understand and contextualize as we move forward. Like is that a really solid perfect percentage? I think it might be.
Yeah. I want to challenge you a little bit on you set the middle as much as you can concept. I was not trained as a setter. However, in my mind, you need to set the ball that makes the most sense against the defense that you're facing, right? So if the block is camped out, right?
Well, but rarely is a block camped out on middles. You've got one blocker on a middle, typically.
And both ways to go.
You always have 2 blockers on your middles. Your pins come in and they'll block 1 balls. Your outside comes in and blocks a 1.
I think they're late a lot of the time.
Okay, that's fair.
And that's at the level I played at, right? But and I know that happens sometimes. And the other part is, if you can establish your middle early in the match, then everyone's hanging out in the middle, or I don't know what's going to happen. And then that opens up your pins later.
Yeah.
But
that's a decision I would expect that happens. You have to decide whether you're going to establish your middles depending on the type of team that you're facing and what the scouting report comes back. I don't know.
I loved my middles. And you even talked about, a middle hits over 300 if they're playing well.
Mm-hmm.
Statistically, my offensive strategy was always run the shit out of your middles and everyone else will be off balance.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a bad strategy. Okay. The other thing that I was wanting to talk about, because I think we mentioned it in the last episode, what breakpoint is. And once I read about it, I'm like, oh, this is so obvious, but it's so funny because I've never heard this term before. You always hear about side outs.
Mhm.
That's what you hear is, okay, I'm receiving this ball. I want to get the serve back from the opposing team. I want to side out. Breakpoint is the opposite of that. We are serving and we are keeping our serve.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's the total number of points where you kept the serve.
So
That
you
is not
scored
a-
it on your serve.
Well, actually, no, I don't know. I don't think it's a server's position stat. I think it's I got
Yeah,
the
sure.
kill. I got the kill to
Mhm.
preserve our serve.
Well, and it's like, I mean, I guess, yeah, if you're thinking of them still as like serving and receiving team,
Right.
you're scoring from the serving side,
Yeah.
the break point.
Is a break point that you have to actively be the one to get the point, or is it just that you're present when it happens? You're on the court when it happens.
No, I was thinking
I think
that.
you have to score it
You have to score it.
Yeah.
just based on how many of them are accredited on the stat sheet. It looks like it's the person that's scoring the point.
Yep.
Because like that point column, right? It's like the sum points,
It's only
which I guess if you're breaking it down, it's however many points you scored, however many of those points were on the serve when your
Yeah.
team was serving.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Cool.
okay.
And then
Yeah.
ratio is a
Yeah.
mystery. It's a mystery column. Ratio, not sure what that column is.
A ratio where we don't
well-
have the numbers required to understand. A ratio is 2 numbers. Should we let them
Yeah.
know?
Oh my
They're
God.
just giving us one number.
You're giving us a single number and calling it a ratio. I don't
Mm.
understand that at all.
Should we start keeping our own stats so that
That'd
we
be
understand
so
them?
funny.
Okay, literally, when I was trying to figure out serve percentage, efficiency percentage, which spoilers, listener, we still haven't figured it out. So, listeners, if you
Yeah, we'll get back to you on certain
yeah,
efficiency.
so,
Who
so
knows?
If
because
you know what the fuck an efficiency percentage for a serve is, email us at courtcaptainspod@gmail.com.
yeah, or-
Somebody please.
yeah,
The student
slide
become the
slide it
teacher.
to our DMs. We want to hear it. We're so curious.
We've got our calculators out. We've
Mhm.
been analyzing.
It's
We
not
cannot figure
adding
it out.
up.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
math is not mathing.
No. So I really thought about I'm gonna take stats for this whole game and we'll figure it out. Maybe one of these days I will do it. If no one writes in, don't threaten me with a bad time. Good time? Don't threaten me with a good time.
There it is.
So that's
Okay.
it for our little stats corner.
Just a conversation about
Yeah.
what the heck is going on
Yeah.
with these numbers. I think it's cool to continue to like learn about what this
Yeah.
league is using. There are some things that I think are pretty standard in international stat keeping that I just am not privy to.
Yeah.
And so there's not a lot of information on the internet to help us. Like it's a lot of doing your own math. So
Yeah, gotta be honest, I
I'm-
haven't dug into stats since I was playing, right? I'm not keeping up with the Olympic team and any
on that
but-
level.
Yeah, and if we're playing in a random adult league on a Wednesday evening,
No one's got any stats on that.
no one's got any stats?
Maybe if my dad showed up, he could like read them to us from his brain. He used to
Yeah.
like keep stats in his head
Oh,
and be like,
Wow.
you should really set that right side more. She's hitting like 500. And I'd be like, what?
wait, I forget. Was I talking to you about some setter that learned like card counting techniques, and so she had all the stats of all the hitters
No way.
as
I don't
she
know
was
about
playing?
this.
I don't know who I was talking to about that. She had all the stats of all the hitters, and so when someone was like, "Feed me the ball," she'd be like, "No." Prove it or something. Like, you're wrong.
That's hilarious. I
Yeah.
want to meet whoever that is.
Yeah. I got to remember who was telling me about that.
Good stuff. All right. Well,
Well,
thanks,
I,
Kelly.
Yes, thank you, Kelly. And also later when we talk about the Supernovas, we can talk a little more stats in my I think we'll do a De La Cruz corner as well. That
Oh yeah.
I learned stats just through De La Cruz on the Supernovas. So
I love that.
Big Beth. That's her Instagram name. Big Beth.
Oh, that's nice.
it better be.
It's real good.
So it was announced last week that there is going to be a new team in Indianapolis, which
Yeah,
is
they're-
very exciting.
Their
The
name has been chosen.
Yeah, Indie Ignite. Which, okay,
Right.
okay, actually, this kind of goes into another conversation that I want to have is the names of these teams. We were noticing, I was talking with my husband, or like, if Chicago had a team, what would we want it to be called? What would be a good name? And then we're just looking at all these teams. It's like there's no animal names.
Nothing. There isn't anything yet.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's just I want to know. It's like I want to know what conversations those are. That like how do they decide?
The PVF was like, here are the brand guidelines.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to have any animal.
ideas. They can be
Yeah.
ideas.
Emotions. It could
Valkyries.
be
They
like,
have to be actual like mythical beings.
yeah.
I guess.
Fury, which has like a lady in the crest,
Yeah,
but
because I think that's like
it's just anger.
That's like a Greek. Is that like the Greek or
Yeah, the Furies.
The Furies, yeah.
It can be Greek in origin. Like it's
Yeah,
like
so like and the Grand Rapids
Greek
Rise.
or
Like, I like this,
like
right? Like
Norwegian.
because something that always makes me real mad is that the Buffalo Bills are called the Buffalo Bills, but their mascot is a buffalo.
Yeah.
Ostensibly, they are the Buffalo Buffaloes.
they're the buffaloes.
There's
Wait,
no
is the
Bill
buffalo
in.
is the buffalo named Bill?
No, I mean I probably,
I hope
but
so.
like they're named after like a circus man from the mid-century, but all their branding is a buffalo.
Wow.
Oh.
So, but they're too cowardly to just be called the Buffalo Buffaloes. They're just
Do
the
it.
Buffaloes.
I dare you.
Like
It's
we
gonna
had the
be
Grand
weird.
Rapid Rise, and they're just a phoenix.
They are a phoenix, right? So
Mm.
they have the mascot of an animal, but they're
Yeah.
not the phoenixes.
But
Yep.
yeah, but their mascot is actually the action that a phoenix does.
right.
Someone's
Right.
going to be the energy, right? Someone's
Yeah.
going to be like,
So Eric had the suggestion for Chicago. Well, I was like, it should be Breeze, like the Major League Volleyball team that was based out of
Mhm.
Chicago Breeze. Like that's great, Windy City.
But what does the Breeze do? It's the Chicago Blows. Like that's what it can't be the item. It has to be the action of the item.
It's got to be the action word, the breezes.
Yeah, it has to be an adjective of some sort.
But he suggested Chicago Stars because it's like first off the newspaper, and I was like, oh, the Chicago Tribunes. But then you think about the Chicago flag, like that would be kind of cool. Like think about the Chicago flag incorporated into a jersey, pretty sweet.
What if they make us the Lakers?
Well, they already have Fury, and like it could just be the Burn.
The Burn.
Like so, it's like Chicago Fire.
Yeah, like because they have the fire. Yeah.
Well, I was like, what's another bear type animal? Because you got bears, you got cubs.
See, but that doesn't make any sense either.
No animals allowed. Right.
So
anyway,
in terms of cities that are definitely approved, we've got Kansas City coming and Dallas. We just don't know their names yet.
Huh. So this Indianapolis team, Ignite.
Yes.
Ignite.
Which I think is also like a Gatorade NBA minor league team is the Ignite, I believe.
All right. Huh.
But
they're coming.
When do they start? They come next season?
January 2025. Yep.
Yep. And I think Kansas City and Dallas are 2025 starters as well. I guess they haven't announced that. But allegedly it's happening, but they haven't announced their name or any of their socials yet. So we'll have 10 teams in 2025. Okay. All right. Thanks for giving us that news, Kelly. All right. So match by match analysis. San Diego this week played their first 2 matches of the season. They played 2 of the highest rated teams, the Atlanta Vibe and the Omaha Supernovas, who already have some matches under their belt. And they're on the road. So they were in Atlanta on Thursday night, took a plane to Omaha for Saturday night's match. And I was unable to watch the Thursday match in Atlanta, despite being in Atlanta.
Did you feel the energy in the city?
I felt it.
For the game?
It was 30 minutes north of downtown Atlanta.
And I was north. It was like a 10-minute drive for me, but I was working. So I thought about pretending to be sick. I just can't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself. I'm much too much of a rule follower for that. So, missed the game. Would love to hear what y'all thought about it. Do a breakdown on stats if you wanna. Yeah, what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, this one, obviously, like you said, we've seen the vibe before. It was definitely a quicker telecast than the Omaha Atlanta Vibe game from week 1. It was a straight setter, as you said at the beginning. Both of the Mojo's games were straight set, so that was a little bit of a rough start to the season, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. We've seen the vibe a few times now, and they seem pretty nasty every time that we've seen them play. So that continues.
Their first home match, so they were amped.
Yeah,
ready to
imagine.
Amped.
Yeah. All right. So the set scores for this match, we have 25-17, 25-15, 25-16 in that 3-set sweep.
A quick one.
Quite quick.
Yeah.
Hour 22 for the game time.
Yeah, it was good. It was good vibes, I think.
Yeah.
The Atlanta Vibe first game. I don't know. It seems like they've taken it pretty seriously in terms of the experience in the building for everyone.
Yeah.
I saw a bunch of their families, the Vibes families were there.
Did you see the couches? They had some couches set up on the sidelines. I don't know. It must have been some like promotional something.
Oh, I'd love to sit in a couch and watch.
And they would look very comfortable.
Front row.
Well, that gets into my observation. Do you think that front row seats like that on the court side is the best way to watch volleyball? Best angle to watch volleyball?
That's what I'm like very used to that, right? Coaching.
That's true. That's true.
And
okay.
being there.
And it's on the end line. So what my even hotter take, the camera that you generally see, the camera angle that you see, how they show every volleyball game ever, where it's from the aerial view, like side, is the worst way to watch volleyball.
I do think it's bad.
I hate it.
Grand Rapids had their camera from that vantage point, right? Like you're in line with the net.
Yes.
So you see the net perfectly perpendicular to you.
Yes.
Grand Rapids was just a little to the right.
That's better.
And I liked it better. If you get a better sense of depth, you can get a little bit better sense of how like high people are jumping. I agree that this is something that I don't think I'm ever going to like. Like I don't know that they're going to get it right.
No, I mean, I think you go into these arenas that are mainly basketball arenas, and that's how you watch a basketball game. That it is the ideal way to watch a basketball game.
Yeah.
Not volleyball. I would rather see it from the end line straight on than from the sideline straight on.
Well, and that's why I really like it when it's in conjunction with a quick replay that is zoomed in and from a different vantage point. Almost any other vantage point, I'm okay with that being the 1-2 punch, because I think that's like the best it's going to get for us. But I agree that it's like taken some time to get used to it.
Yeah. Ian,
that's like, I mean, tennis does it from the back line, or else you just wouldn't be able to see what the hell's going on there. And I guess perspective wise, like, it just looks really crowded from the side. I think, which I mean, it is really crowded, obviously. I mean, it's not a giant court, but from the back, I think you can see a lot more of where they're trying to set it and where they're trying to put the kill, versus just on the side. It just looks like they're just bashing it at each other.
Yeah.
And it lines up, near the sideline.
Yeah. I've been meaning to bring this up.
I've seen
for the last episode. I've been meaning to bring this up.
I've seen some of those shots sprinkled in, but it's definitely not
that's why it's like
their main angle. But
replays are absolutely vital. And when in that first match 2 weeks ago, last week.
One thing that
stood out, talk about relative time. But they didn't have any. Yeah, they didn't have replays in the first match overall, and it was hard to watch.
Yeah, just to see what was going on. I mean, one thing that stood out on the stat sheet and in game, I guess, is the final columns on the stat sheet, the other columns, which are digs and assists,
which they're giving us now. Maybe there was only one match last week that didn't have it. Love an other column. Need that.
The Vibe had 40 assists as a team. And Tori Stringer had 37 of the assists.
Yep.
I mean, is that a regular thing for most? I mean, they're just
10%.
That's an insane percentage.
10% feels like you won, kind of.
Sure.
And more than that, I mean, this is an interesting.
Or is it? I guess is it regular for one player to have 96% of the assists on that team? She's just
totally. That's
she's
the setter.
Yeah.
That's the quarterback. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Cool.
And most of the time, the libero has the other ones. Because if the setter is,
she did.
Yep. If the setter is taken out of the play for whatever reason, then the libero is the default second
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. 40 assists for the Vibe in this match compared to 25 for Mojo.
And an assist is a set that'll just lead directly to a kill, I would assume. Okay. Sweet.
Yeah. So all I was able to look at was the stats. Can I give you my stats impression of this match based on not watching it?
Yes.
Okay. From the Vibe, we had 43 kills on 104 attempts, which is 300.
That's
pretty nice.
That's an amazing team efficiency.
That's very nice for a team efficiency. That was mostly led by Leah Edmond on the outside, 16 kills, hit 410. Woo.
She was on fire.
Out of her mind.
I know you didn't get a chance to watch the game. If you could go back, there were 2 or 3 of her kills that sent chills up my spine. Like, they were amazing. She was unstoppable.
Yep.
Well, and that's what I think is interesting watching I mean, she had 5 errors, but because she was fucking smashing the ball.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Totally.
So I guess you're just like, we'll take that.
Oh yeah.
For a 41% kill efficiency.
Yeah.
Grace Cleveland played really well on the right side. 8 kills, 333. The middles did fine. I don't think from a numbers perspective quite as well as in the last match, but I mean, it's just very solid offense and really it's very consistent. So I loved to see all of that. That made a lot of sense to me. I will say on the other side of Mojo, not as good of hitting efficiency. They hit, was it 9%?
Yeah.
They swapped out Hannah Tapp in the first or second set for Allison Bastianelli. The 2 of them, comprising one of the 2 middles, had 4 attempts total in the match.
Yeah, because
which is a problem.
Because if we look to the reception, they were not passing the ball, and they let a lot of balls. They couldn't get a lot of digs either. I don't have digs per set pulled up, but
the libero passed 17% positive. It was a tough first contact. It looked like for me. You can't if you can't have your middles as an option. I mean, Temi Thomas Aliara on the outside had 10 kills for 220. That's pretty good, but
and actually
that's the only thing you've got going for you. You're not going to be able to pull it out.
It was actually kind of interesting. A lot of her kills, or at least it felt like a lot of her kills, because they were really big kills, were from the right side in that rotation right before she goes back row. And you're like, oh my gosh, should you be playing right side? You were amazing.
Yep.
I mean, she had some great swings on the outside too, but
I mean, is that was what you were picking up? First contact was a big problem for Mojo.
Yes. Yep. They just couldn't get it.
Yep.
Going.
One other stat question while we're stuck. Like, what then counts as a dig?
Anytime anyone gets the ball up when the other team has hit at you.
Ever. So just like if you get it to a setter.
Yeah, it's a successful, like someone else can get a second touch
successful reception.
Yeah, you kept it's not off of a serve, but basically anything else coming from the other team, if you keep the point going, if you get the ball up to keep the point going, it's considered a dig.
So like Leah Edmond, some 22 receptions, but 5 digs. The hell's happening there?
So those are different. Reception's going to be always off of the serve only.
Okay.
And dig is going to be off every other ball. So you can only get a receive stat one time in a point, and then dig happens the whole rest of the point. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Kelly, did you have feelings about the setter that you wanted to talk about, that you wanted to process?
It's like I'm trying to like replay the game and think like, okay, so passing wasn't great, but also I saw a lot of things where the passes were good and the sets were not good. Like they were not in the right spot. But then also at the same time, I see the hitters maybe not making the smartest choices. And the sets are good enough. Like they should be able to do something better. And so is it a setting problem? Is it a hitting problem? Is it a reception problem?
Mm-hmm.
All the above.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Many variables going into.
But yeah, a lot of variables. But at the end of the day, it did not look clean or good.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, congrats to the Vibe on their first home match dub.
Victory. Yeah.
A sweep. Sounded dusty. Sounded real dusty. Should we jump into Mojo at Supernovas?
Sure.
So just for comparison, 6,100 spectators in Atlanta. Once again, Omaha turning up 11,403.
Oh yeah, I think it was on their Instagram. They're like the second largest audience in Pro Volleyball Federation
after
history.
Our last one. Yeah.
Yep. And first was also us.
Yeah.
Just behind us.
People are pumped to go to a volleyball game in Omaha on a Saturday night. This was, an Omaha sweep once again, 25-17, 25-18, 25-22. The first sweep in Omaha.
Yeah.
In front of
arena history.
100,000 people.
So, Omaha hit 370, 44 kills. Nice. 51% positive serve receive.
Nice.
And this was the Big Beth show. As far as I'm concerned, 13 kills.
She turned it on.
She hit 440. She had 6 digs.
Wow.
She served really well too, I believe.
Yeah, that was my question watching it. Is like
she went on runs.
She's doing all the things.
Uh-huh.
She has the most serves on the team, the most receptions on the team, the most kills on the team.
Well, and that's the thing. 1 ace, 2 errors, 17 attempts. It just meant that like it didn't matter if it was an ace. It was if they kept it going, they got the point every time, right? So she went on those big runs. It was really fun to watch. Overall,
440 kill.
Yeah,
amazing.
440.
Yeah.
Really great. I liked Tori Dixon in the middle.
Yeah.
6 kills, hit 550.
Yeah. She did really well in their last game too.
Yeah.
Opener.
We did have an unfortunate injury. Brooke Nuneviller outside from Oregon. In the first set, there was a very awkward moment at the net where Omaha San Diego Mojo tried to stay out of the net. I'm not sure exactly who it was. It might have been the right side. And Brooke and her just kind of barely glanced each other under the net. And she seemed okay, but then she went back to the locker room. A little. Kind of walked it off and took a second, but seemed like an ankle injury. I think I heard, but then was off.
He said on the broadcast either ankle or wrist, something like that. I don't know.
It was very awkward. She didn't quite fall down, and then she did. In that first set, she had 5 kills on 7 attempts. She was hitting 710.
Yeah,
it was early, but she was playing really well. And then Paige Briggs came in for her, and who also ended up doing pretty well. 8 kills, hit 440.
Previously, she had just come in to serve, I think, back row in previous games, right?
Yep. Yeah. I think that's right. So pretty strong on the offense. I'm a big Sydney Hilly fan, setter from out of Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about that side was that I really noticed good libero setter energy. They were both Sydney as a setter, Kendall White as a libero, just constant, positive, consistent energy. And from an overall standpoint, watching this game, looking at the stats, you don't understand the energy in that arena and the way it felt. The stats, I'm looking at it and I'm like, this does seem kind of close. And I'm going to go through Mojo's because on paper they did some good things. And they had a really good fight, especially in the third. There were some really good rallies, but it just took them a long time to get to that level. And so I'm just feeling they're going to get there.
Yeah. Going off of that libero setter energy, what did you think of the libero setter energy on Mojo? Because I also think the the libero energy that I'm seeing from these other teams, I did not see in the Mojo either. That was another.
Yeah, I agree. I think that part of it is like getting to know each other. So Kendall is a little bit older than Sydney, but Kendall played at Penn State. Sydney played at Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
They probably for a year or two played against each other a couple times a year in the Big Ten. Like there's just this, like, you gotta get to know people. We can talk a little more on this. I think that's fair to say I wasn't seeing that same strength for Mojo.
Yeah.
For Mojo, I cannot say anything before I say all hail Ronica Stone. She is a middle out of Oregon, played pro a couple years, 12 kills, hit 600.
Yeah.
Just get out of town. Like I can't, that is who I feel played so strong. And TomCom was connecting well and making that connection even on passes that I would have said, maybe you can't find your middle on that pass. It was far enough off the net, and she was still finding her middles on like a shoot ball, essentially.
I think she wound up with like double the assists she had 3 nights before. So it's definitely a better game.
Must have been a first match nerves, maybe.
Jitters,
Yeah.
I didn't. They put in
on Thursday. She runs those middles very fast.
Yep.
And I'm like, I couldn't tell if it was like a height thing, but I do think it's faster than what you normally see, where the middles are running quicker, like they're leading earlier.
Yep, totally.
Than normal.
Mojo made a switch on their outside. Kendra Dahlke played for the first set, didn't really do much, and then Morgan Lewis came in. She's also out of Oregon, listed as a right side on the roster, played outside, 9 kills, hit 390.
Wow.
So that's two really, I mean, on paper, this team hit 250.
Yeah.
To hit 250 and lose 0-3.
Yeah. Who played right side for Mojo?
Lindsay Stolzer.
I think she played outside on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And Dahlke played right side.
I think you're
on Thursday.
Yeah. They were, I can just tell that they're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And this San Diego Mojo coach is Taiba Hanif Park. Played at Long Beach State. She's been in various like U.S. team development and collegiate national coaching positions. She's been the last couple years a facilitator and then a director at Athletes Unlimited. She was the assistant in Oregon last year, assistant coach. So she's from California. I think she's going to figure it out. Like, I think that they all are.
Yeah.
Trying people in different positions, trying to see what that energy is like. There was also no blocking from Mojo. That was a pretty significant weakness compared to Omaha.
That was their problem on Thursday as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First contact, blocking. Would love to see how that progresses into the rest of the season.
Yep. The little defense. We need to work on some defense.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like.
So it's time for Ian's inquiry. This is going to be a weekly segment where Ian does a deep dive on something that is interesting, or, asks a question, starts a conversation.
Yeah, last week it was about Bethania de la Cruz, which has become its own weekly segment, De La Cruz Corner. So this one, less about an individual performance, more about a team performance. This week we saw 2 games from the Mojo, obviously both straight set sweeps. So me, as a person that's never played volleyball, but has played and watched some sports, I had some questions specifically about chemistry as it relates to volleyball. Because, as Nikki did mention at the beginning, 2 straight set losses, but they were to the 2 teams that are widely considered the best teams in the federation.
Mm-hmm.
The Vibe and Omaha, who they started the league off with them playing each other, and it was a 5-setter. So they're both good teams. That's one variable. Not only that, they're a week late to the party compared to both of these teams who have already played games together. I assume, right? Like we said in our last week's pod, these teams are still figuring some stuff out. I assume the Vibe, the Supernovas have officially figured some things out already. Some of the things they have fully figured out. And then this is also our first coast-to-coast road trip in the Federation history. Mojo went for their week-long road trip, played twice, didn't go home. All of those are variables that they would bring up on sports talk radio in another sport.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, as also someone that doesn't understand volleyball as much, I guess my question is how long does it take to put those things into practice on a larger view? And then in game, if you're down 2 sets to a team like the Vibe or the Supernovas, like how are you looking to make adjustments? Like how available are those adjustments to you within a game versus, oh man, after we get our asses beat in this game, we're going to have to spend a week on the practice court installing some new shit, some new stuff to deal with stuff like this. Because I assume there's, the longer form adjustment versus the in-game adjustment seems like a difficult thing.
Well, something that I'll start by saying is that being down 0-2 is a tough mindset as you enter the third. However, I've seen volleyball is such a game of momentum, and very small things can alter that momentum. So I've seen teams come back and win the third, fourth, fifth. Like a new set is very much billed as a brand new opportunity and time to, really employ your short-term memory and pretend to just start it all over again. So even though that is mentally something that like the team that's up 2-0 is going to be like, keep it going, right? Like that is a real opportunity to kind of reset. And how we talk about it too is like, oh, we got to point 15. It's a reset. There's like a lot of mental opportunities to switch it up. Obviously that didn't happen for the Mojo, but I will say that in the third set of the match against Omaha, it looked different to me. And I do feel like they were having the best rallies of the match in that set. I felt like they were gelling a little bit better.
Do you think, did they make any
personnel changes?
No.
Well, I mean,
like, did they make any strategy changes?
Like, that's part
we're
of my question
gonna
too.
block a little bit more this way, or
totally.
Yeah. Did you notice that? It's hard to notice that stuff.
It's hard for me to tell. When I think that a couple weeks in, I'll be able to tell more because we'll know these players better. We'll be used to seeing what they're capable of and what they typically do.
Yeah, I feel like because we've seen the Vibe play so much, I'm like, all right, I know what they're all about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and that's part of me watching it, right? Is like we talked about being in phase in volleyball, which makes sense. That translates to other sports, right? Football, you can tell when someone's in phase. Easier in my mind as a defense to disrupt the phase of an offense in football than it would be in volleyball, because it seems like there is a much narrower band of stuff you can do in terms of like putting them off what they're doing. If they're just receiving the ball well in phase, I don't know, after that set, you lose 25-18, you're down 2-0. They're just in phase both of the sets. Like, what are you even doing on the sideline to be like, hey, we need to get them out of phase?
So I like your block adjustment.
Yeah.
Point,
so
Kelly.
I was going to say, that's what I was going to go into. So a lot of the conversations that I would have as a right side, if we can't stop the outside, the block at all. And you kind of have to make a decision. Am I going to block cross line? Like where am I going to try to funnel the ball with my block? And there's different types of defense that you can play, like different formations. Generally, in what we're seeing here is you see them playing perimeter.
Or 3 across. Is more common at international.
Yeah, they're playing like your block. Yeah, that's
where the middle back comes up a bit compared to perimeter is going to be.
Yeah,
you like kind of stand in almost like a V formation. Yeah, and 3 across, which is what I've seen way more at the international level, and certainly Omaha was doing that. Yeah, is that middle back comes up.
Yeah, which is a
very more even.
You see men play it like that a lot.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's a lot of the conversation. So if you're trying to make a difference on the defense, trying to funnel the ball to a different player or just a different angle so the libero is in the right position, because a lot of the times you have to think about, okay, the libero needs to be ready for the tips from the setter when the setter's in the front row. Well, they need to be able to get into defensive position where the ball is being funneled, and you need to be able to work that system in a timely manner and make sure you have enough time to get where you need to go to, be in the right position to dig the ball.
Well, and I will say, like, Big Beth, for instance, was crushing some line shots early on. So the blocker was leaving her a bit of space between the antenna and the blocker and saying, like, thread that needle, I dare ya. And she did it plenty of times. And I think what I saw a little bit was that was less and less available to her, because then she was getting little tips right over the block in the middle of the court. So that's an example of one of those, like, the block might shift, the defense might shift based on something you're doing, which then means that something else is available to the hitter. But unless they adjust quickly and see the way that the open shot has changed, they're not going to be successful. In this case, Beth was like, yeah, okay. I'll go that way now. I've got that shot too.
Yeah.
You see sometimes with certain, like, the scout is like, that right side or that middle has a tough time going that direction.
Yeah.
So we're going to give her only that option we're going to take away the other stuff that she's good at. And sometimes the hitter goes, no, I can do that too. Like, you just haven't seen me do it yet. So that's, I think those are the options mid-game for adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
You could start serving at somebody different. You could start thinking about your own offense differently, going for certain gaps. And when it's early, what do you know yet? What do you know about these players quite yet?
Yeah. And like, I guess that's part two is it seems like, given that there's the rotation offensively, harder for you to, like, to zone in on what works for you offensively if it's only one thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're having a hard time.
Mm-hmm. And speaking to your, like, overall question about chemistry, knowing what your own team is capable of and what their strengths are sometimes takes a little while to figure out. And I think that's when I'm saying, like, Mojo's figuring it out. I think there are objectively good athletes on this team. I don't think they're terrible by any stretch of the imagination. None of these players are terrible.
And the last set they played was their best set of the 6.
Mm-hmm.
And they've only played 6 professional sets together in game. So it's not a lot of volleyball, obviously.
Yeah. And I think volleyball is a team sport of putting the next person on your side who's going to touch the ball in as good of a position as possible for both them being successful and the other team being unsuccessful. So, like, with every touch, you're trying to better the ball and put your next person in a better situation. And that requires knowing when and where they will perform well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just met this chick 3 weeks ago, which, like, ostensibly that's everybody, right? But
sure, yeah.
More connection and more getting to know this person in different circumstances is more data to add to that chemistry. And this is just like most other team sports, right? Sure. Basketball is very much like that. Yeah. But yeah, growing that chemistry, I think, is an important thing.
Well, and we're still at a point in the league where there is still a team that has not played a game.
Yeah.
So, like, the Mojo are not last to the party.
No, they're not.
You're technically not last in the standings.
Well, cool.
No, that's great.
Yeah, can't wait to see Thrill play.
Player of the week. We did have a week 1 announcement for player of the week. It was Atlanta Vibe player Allie Linehan, outside hitter,
who is now injured. So there's the beginnings of a curse.
Beginnings of a curse.
The player of the week. Player curse. Yeah.
Well, so on that note, let's give our predictions. Let's bestow. I don't want to bestow a curse, but week 2 prediction for player of the week based on Mojo matches. It's not going to be a Mojo player, right?
I think it had on it. Like, obviously, it's like De La Cruz. I love, but I think it's probably a Vibe player.
Another one rolling. Though.
Yeah, they're just rolling.
I feel that it could be Leah Edmond on Atlanta. If they're 3-0.
I gotta say, I do think it'll be Leah Edmond, but my dark horse is actually Shelly Fanning.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
I do think it will be Leah Edmond, but
I think it should be Ronica Stone on Mojo, honestly. That middle who hit 600. It's not going to be Ronica because they lost, but that's who it should be, in my opinion.
Something we got to look up is how they determine. I assume coaches vote.
Oh, interesting.
Sweet little coaches or players poll.
Mm.
Yeah,
Atlanta Vibe already has undefeated branding on their website. Like, hey, we're undefeated.
Oh, wow.
We haven't
I
lost
see
a game.
That now.
We've yet to lose.
3 out of
and that
20,
came from
24.
when they were up, when they were 2-0. Yeah, so
that came from when they were 2-0.
Yeah, they were like, we're 2-0 going in our home opener. We're undefeated.
Undefeated bitches.
Which is like what I say when like I never lost a fight in high school. I'd never fought anyone, but
I was undefeated.
Technically undefeated. Yeah, I'm like Floyd Mayweather.
I mean, if you're advertising this around Atlanta, just trying to get people to watch, what a great headline.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So next week's matches, on that note, Wednesday, February 7th, we have the Vegas Thrill opener at Omaha, Supernovas.
Back in Omaha.
Friday, the 9th, Grand Rapids Rise at Atlanta. Saturday, February 10th, we have the second Vegas Thrill match at Orlando. So that'll be 2 matches of Thrill that we get to see what they're working with.
Yeah.
Nice.
Monday, there are 2 matches. Omaha Supernovas at Grand Rapids and Orlando Valks at Atlanta Vibe.
Right, so we'll start to actually get a little idea of how the league's shaking out after next week.
Yeah.
Yep. 2 matches on Monday at the same time. I feel that is a bit
I wonder if YouTube will do like if they'll do a double box.
Oh.
On the PVF YouTube where you can watch them both.
Let's go. I would love that.
I'd do that.
Yeah, so
you also have to put one on my phone and one on the TV. I can watch them both.
Just like Red Zone, baby.
Yeah.
So we're all still just watching on YouTube, sounds like. Although they are still advertising for Bally and Stadium.
I didn't even try
this week. Me either. I mean, yeah.
All right, well, thanks for listening to Court Captains, a volleyball podcast. Please give us some stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you like what you're hearing. Support small podcasts. Thank you so much. Follow us on Instagram, Court Captains Pod. Email us your questions or comments at courtcaptainspod@gmail.com. Shout out to our YouTube live stream buddy, Brad. We love our fans.
Brad.
Yeah, Brad.
What's up, Brad?
Shout out. Everyone go be the captain of your own court. Have a good
Nailed
week.
it. Have a good week.
Bye.